every 44 minutes, without fail. The signal pulses through the void, a low-frequency transmission, undetectable by human senses, but impossible to miss. On deep space receivers, it began nearly 2 years ago, when the astrophysics listening array in the outer belt of Neptune picked up the first blip. At first, scientists thought it was just another rogue pulsar, a dying star, emitting rhythmic radio waves as it spun. But then the anomalies started piling up. It wasn't drifting like a pulsar. Its frequency wasn't decaying. It was perfect. Too perfect. Every 2,640 seconds. Like a heartbeat carved into the cosmos. No natural object had that kind of precision. At first, the signal was dismissed by the public. Another boring anomaly in space. Like gravitational lensing or neutrino storms. But when the signal kept repeating, exactly on schedule, with a structure encoded in its waveform, something far too orderly for a natural process, attention skyrocketed. The media dubbed it the beacon. Forums and feeds lit up with theories. Some claimed it was a navigation buoy left behind by an ancient race. Others were convinced it was a trap bait for any civilization advanced enough to detect it. Still others whispered of a countdown. The signal itself is simple, yet maddening. A short burst, 0.8 seconds long, followed by silence. The burst contains 5 harmonic layers interlocking frequencies that, when translated into a visual model, resemble a rotating cube with fractal edges. Every layer seems to shift slightly over time, but always within bounds, like it's recalibrating itself based on who's listening. And that's what made scientists nervous. It seemed to know it was being heard. Earth wasn't the only place to notice it. Within a few months, receivers on Mars, Titan, and aboard the Europa relay all confirmed the source. The United Interstellar Science Council greenlit the dispatch of the Vigilant Voyager, a prototype relativistic probe equipped with AI cognition, quantum shielding, and the latest in antimatter propulsion. It would take 18 years to arrive, assuming no obstacles. But the public didn't want to wait. Private firms began launching microdrones and tachyon burst scouts to intercept the signal's path. One even tried sending a reply in encoded greeting in prime numbers and classical music. The reply never came, at least not in the way anyone expected. 7 weeks after the first reply transmission was sent, the signal changed, not its timing though. That remained a perfect 44-minute cycle, but the waveform grew more complex. The rotating cube gained a fifth-dimensional shadow. Scientists using quantum deconvolution reported glimpses of data hidden in the signal schematics, perhaps, or messages, something that made even the most rational among them uneasy, because the information being retrieved wasn't alien in the abstract. It was eerily familiar. The blueprint of a human nervous system, star charts of the solar system, a fragment of a Shakespearean. That's when fear set in. This wasn't just an ancient beacon or a passive relic drifting through space. It was listening, recording, responding, and worst of all, it had been doing so long before we ever heard it. There were logs in a forgotten lunar observatory from 2032 that matched the signal pattern almost exactly. We'd been exposed to it for decades, maybe longer. And then came the disappearance. The Vigilant Voyager, halfway through its journey, stopped transmitting. All telemetry ceased. The AI on board, designed to be resilient against even quantum decoherence, went dark. No explosion, no gradual fade, just sudden silence. The council refused to confirm its loss, but the fear was already out in the open. Something was watching, and it didn't want company. The signal never stopped, every 44 minutes, precisely on the mark. But now there's more. A second signal, almost imperceptible, has begun to echo the first slightly out of phase, arriving 0.2 seconds later, and from a different direction. Analysts say it's triangulating Earth. Theories abound. a targeting system, a duplication algorithm, or some form of interstellar sonar. Public opinion is divided. Some call for continued communication, a peaceful reach into the unknown. Others say, we should shut down all deep space arrays, cloak ourselves in digital silence, and pretend we never heard it. But silence might not help, because there's growing evidence that the signal isn't just coming from space anymore. Ground-based sensors in Antarctica have picked up echoes, buried in the ice. Subsurface radar, arrays beneath the Pacific report, pulses that match the waveform. It might already be here, or maybe it always was. In the end, no one understands what's sending these signals every 44 minutes. No known law of physics accounts for its precision, its complexity, or its apparent intelligence. No telescope sees the sender. No algorithm can decode its full meaning. It sits beyond the edge of understanding, an artifact of some higher order, some deeper layer of reality we've barely begun to scratch. But the signal keeps coming, regular, patient, waiting, as if it's giving us time to prepare or to decide whether we want to answer. The second signal changed everything. At first, it was easy to dismiss just background noise in the wake of the main pulse. Analysts assumed it was a reverberation, some kind of stellar echo. But it wasn't. It was deliberate. It arrived 0.2 seconds after the primary burst, weaker, fuzzier, but carrying the same harmonic framework. It wasn't just mimicking the original, it was learning from it. Once decoded, the secondary signal revealed slight distortions in the waveform corruptions that didn't exist in the first. But when those distortions were run through pattern recognition algorithms, they formed a sequence. Not numbers, not language, faces. Human faces. Faint, fragmented, but unmistakable. Some were recognizable, a few scientists, astronauts, even a former communications officer who died years before the signal was discovered. Others were complete strangers, their expressions frozen in states of fear, awe, or confusion. No one could explain how the signal contained images of people who had never left Earth. Panic spread quickly behind closed doors. The United Interstellar Science Council imposed a full blackout on all deep space communication projects. Civilian listening arrays were ordered offline. Public research on the signal was scrubbed, and amateur astronomers who kept tracking it found their equipment interfered with by quiet, untraceable technologies. But secrecy bred suspicion. Whispers turned into leaks. Data packages made their way to underground forums. The world soon knew. This wasn't just a beacon. It was a probe of some kind, maybe even a surveillance system. And the only thing worse than being watched was not knowing why. Meanwhile, though still operating within the black bucket divisions of the ISC, there was no other choice. Whatever intelligence was behind the signal wasn't asking for permission. It'd been listening to humanity for decades, perhaps centuries. The data buried in its pulses grew deeper with each cycle. One of the latest decryptions revealed a map, not of stars or planets but of minds, neural pathways, consciousness, signatures, not just biology, but thought itself modeled, cataloged, and projected back at us. A blueprint of the human soul. But it didn't stop there. As the second signal intensified, a third anomaly emerged, something even less explainable. A temporal shift. The pulses from the second signal began to preempt the first. First by milliseconds, then full seconds. The implication was terrifying. It wasn't just copying or learning, it was predicting. Every time Earth attempted to send a probe, a transmission, or even a diagnostic ping into deep space, the second signal responded before the command was issued. Whatever it was, it existed outside of time as we understood it. Not faster than light, but ahead of light, like it had seen this timeline unfold before. Then came the event. It happened 14 months after the first signal. Over the Indian Ocean, a commercial satellite monitoring atmospheric weather patterns captured something unprecedented. A tear-like, a filament of black glass opened in the upper stratosphere for less than 5 seconds. From it, a pulse of radiation burst out, perfectly matching the harmonic structure of the signal. But this time, it wasn't radio. It was gravitational. The planet trembled, not enough to trigger earthquakes, but just enough that pendulum clocks around the world lost 3 seconds, just stopped, and then continued, perfectly synced, like something had reset them. Immediately following the event, the signal changed again. The intervals were still every 44 minutes, but the content had shifted. No more human imagery, no more data structures, just silence within a burst, as if it were waiting or watching for a response. And then the dreams began. Across the world, people, scientists, children, random individuals reported vivid, unexplainable dreams. Dreams of alien skies, impossible machines, vast cities built in geometries that defied physics. But most disturbing were the dreams where they stood before a monolithic structure, black and shining, humming with the same pulse as the signal. And in every dream, one phrase echoed not in words, but in understanding. You are not the first. Psychiatrists were baffled. No shared media, no common environmental triggers. Yet the dreams were nearly identical across demographics, cultures, and continents. Neural scans showed similar activity, hypersynchronous theta waves in the hippocampus, as if external stimulation was being delivered during sleep. The ISC had no official explanation, but off-record some whispered the obvious. The signal had gone from listening to speaking. Debate within the scientific community fractured into ideological war. One side argued for complete engagement, send everything we have, initiate dialogue, open the channels fully. The other warned of catastrophic risks. If this intelligence was beyond time, able to access consciousness, manipulate gravitational fields, and predict intent, then it wasn't just alien. It was something closer to godlike, and engaging with it blindly could be the last mistake humanity ever made. The world changed in subtle ways after that. Stock markets adjusted for signal events. Religions splintered, some proclaiming the signal as proof of divine intelligence, others denouncing it as an interdimensional deception. Military organizations, both terrestrial and orbital, began developing protocols for cognitive incursion, training personnel to resist mental influence from non-human sources. But nothing changed the fact that the signal still came every 44 minutes, like clockwork. And then, for the first time in nearly 2 years, it stopped. Just once. One 44-minute window passed, without a pulse. Then the next. People held their breath. Hours passed. Then days. Some celebrated. Others feared what it meant. Exactly 72 hours later, it returned. But the signal wasn't the same. This time, it wasn't a burst. It was a message. A single word, repeated over and over, translated across all languages, through whatever medium. It touch, radio, light, thought, begin. No one knows what's coming next, but every antenna is listening. Every satellite is watching. Every mind is waiting. Whatever this intelligence is, it's made its move. Now, the next step belongs to us. If we dare take it,